Hello, my name is Ruthie Batulis, and I'm president of Dakota County Regional Chamber of Commerce. We welcome you to our 2010 Farmington Candidate Forums this evening. The Dakota County Regional Chamber is dedicated to voter education, and each election year, the Chamber hosts multiple candidate debates and forums throughout the market. And these are designed to educate and inform our voters. They are impartial in nature, however, the focus is on issues that are critical to the business community. The forums provide candidates an opportunity to state their platforms on a variety of business issues. All of the candidates have been invited to attend. The forums are free and open to the public. The local cable access will telecast the forums live, and they will replay them until the election. Tonight we have two candidates that are with us tonight, Representative Pat Garofalo and Dave Thompson, who is running for the Senate seat. We will say that the other opponents declined to participate this evening, so we're changing our rules to accommodate that. We're pleased to have Pat Garofalo with us tonight, and we will talk with him for about a half an hour on business issues. At this time, I'd like to introduce our moderator, who is Roz Peterson from Cerrone Commercial Properties, and you may begin, Roz.
Thank you very much, Ruthie, and thank you for being here tonight. Pat, please, why don't you give us an opening statement, and we'll go from there.
Well, thank you, and first of all, I'd like to thank the Dakota County Regional Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum this evening. In addition, I'd like to thank the citizens of Farmington, Southern Lakeville, and portions of rural Dakota and Goodhue County for the opportunity to represent you over the last 6 years. And finally, I'd like to thank the local Democrat Party and the local Democrat candidates for not showing up tonight and for giving me this unprecedented opportunity to speak directly to the constituents of our area, unfiltered, without interruption, for 30 straight minutes. I'll tell you that it's a little bit unusual, my 6 years of being a state representative, to have this opportunity, but in defense of the Democrats, if I had to show up and defend Mark Dayton's crazy tax-raising plans, or defend the Democrats' plans to engage in unsustainable spending or reckless deficits, or to come up here and justify why the Democrats' plans for raising property taxes on the citizens of Farmington or the townships surrounding Farmington, if I had to do that, I probably wouldn't show up tonight either. So it's, I will say that this election and the elections that are taking place across Minnesota and across America in just under 5 weeks are the most important elections that have taken place in this country in over 100 years. We have two radically contrasting visions of what American government should look like. On one hand, we have the Democrats offering higher taxes and higher spending. On the Republican side, they have a different path to prosperity. They're offering lower taxes and lower spending. On the Democrat side, they're offering a pathway to prosperity through having an American government that looks more like Western Europe, to design our social welfare programs like France, Germany, and Italy. On the Republican side, there's a vision being offered to say that prosperity is going to come through small businesses, through individual achievement, and through the free enterprise and a dynamic private sector economy. And so that's going to be two radically different visions, and this election is going to offer us a pretty bold contrast of that, both at the local level, the state level, and nationally. So again, thank you to the Dakota County Regional Chamber of Commerce, and thanks to the Democrats. I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Also, tell us why you're running for re-election, and what are your qualifications?
Well, I believe that short of being wealthy and owning your own business and being able to create jobs, being involved in public service is one of the best ways to have a positive impact in your community. I was raised in a family that taught me that public service was a noble profession, and so that's why I'm involved in doing this. In terms of my qualifications, I'm currently the minority lead on the K-12 Finance Committee. I've had the opportunity to serve 3 terms in the legislature. I've been an aggressive advocate for tax reform, for education reform, and for making sure that Minnesota is on the cutting edge of aggressive public policy reforms. And in addition to that, I have worked, I've been pretty effective at the legislature in assisting in getting the motor vehicle sales tax constitutional amendment on the ballot, which is now providing hundreds of millions of dollars in additional transportation funding. Also, I've been a conferee on both K-12 finance conference committees. So I believe those are the qualifications, some of the qualifications I have to to continue my service to the citizens of this area.
Thank you. And as a school board member, director, I can also vouch that Representative Garofalo has been instrumental in helping our educational system get better. And I do want to thank you for that. We get a lot of that in Lakeville as well. The other question we have is, Minnesota is facing a nearly $6 billion deficit. Is it a spending problem or a revenue problem? And how do you propose to fix the problem?
Well, I think, if you look at our system right now, the tax collections we have in Minnesota are based primarily off of two factors. One is income tax collections, which is basically if people are working, they pay the taxes. If they don't work, they don't pay the taxes. In addition is the collection and sales taxes. So we have, when people buy things, they consume things, they pay a tax on those items. And right now, revenues are down because the economy is in recession. Businesses are spending less. Families are spending less. And so the solution to this, it seems pretty common sense to me, is that government needs to spend less. If you look at all areas of the economy across this district, it's pretty tight. I'm a consultant. I work as a network engineer. My private sector income, the bill rate I have, has been frozen for just short of 2 years. And those sorts of things are not the exception, rather they're the rule in the private sector. So it is absolutely important as we take a look at balancing the budget, which we have to do. We're not like the federal government. The federal government, they can spend whatever they want and just keep racking up debt, borrowing as much as they can from China and sovereign wealth funds. But the reality is, in Minnesota, we have to balance that budget. And the way we have to do it, the only sustainable way to do it, is to cut spending.
If it is a spending problem, prioritize and outline the most compelling arguments for holding the line on spending.
Sure. Well, I think if you look at the amount of spending that the government is doing, you map that out on a grid and you have a line. And then you take a look at personal income. And you take a look at the personal income growth. Spending cannot grow faster than personal income. It's not a matter of theory. It's not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of fact that you cannot have spending grow faster than personal income. And the reality is, all of the wonderful public services that we have in our state, whether it's our wonderful parks and trails, our solid K-12 education system, there's areas for improvement in that, but generally we have one of the best public education systems in the nation. If you look at those things, they're all paid for exclusively with a dynamic and growing private sector. And so that's why it's so important that we keep that lid on spending, have government live within its means, like families, like businesses are doing, and then we'll have the opportunity, when we grow jobs, when we grow the private sector, that's how you collect additional resources to pay for the public services we need, not by confiscating more or redistributing more from businesses or those who are successful in our community.
We know that small businesses are the job creators in the U.S. Last year, the legislature passed the Angel Investor Tax Credit that will encourage small business investment in the years to come. What other strategies do you support to provide for business growth?
Well, it's important that we look at small businesses are all about inputs. What are their costs? And we talk a lot about taxation and how it would be just incredibly foolish to adopt Mark Dayton's plan that they have right now to make us one of the highest tax states in the nation. Just short of Hawaii, it would be approximately a 30 to a 40% increase in the income tax rates Minnesotans are paying. So first step is we need to defeat bad legislation. We need to stop bad things from being enacted. But outside of the area of taxation, there's other things that increase the costs of job providers and those who are hiring. Regulation, for example. Right now, there's a project up in northern Minnesota called the Polymet Mine. This is for non-ferrous mining, to do some additional mining from the ground. And this would create hundreds of permanent, high-paying union jobs. And this has been wrapped up in red tape, tens of millions of dollars in costs just to get the permitting process done. So that on the permitting side, we need to use common sense. We need to make sure that we have regulation reform. In addition, we need to make sure that we're doing our best to keep a lid on insurance costs, workman's comp costs, and doing those things to make Minnesota a business-friendly place that tells people we are open for business and that we're expanding this private sector. Again, I can't emphasize this enough, that everything good that comes from the public sector, it's all paid for by a growing private sector, and that's the only opportunity we have to pay for those services.
Thank you. Speaking of regulation, do you support streamlining the environmental review and permitting process in Minnesota? It sounds like you kind of already answered that question, but.
The answer to the question would be yes.
Okay, moving along. In Minnesota, 92% of citizens have access to health care. However, businesses rate the cost of health care and uncertainty regarding federal health care reform as one of their top barriers to business growth. What measures do you support to increase the quality and reduce the cost of health care?
Well, I think it's important if you look at Minnesota, there's three important factors that involve healthcare. Number one is quality of care. And if you look in Minnesota right now, we have the Rochester Mayo Health System, which is world leading. It's not an exaggeration to say that kings and queens, prince and princesses come to Minnesota because of our world leading quality of care. So in the area of quality of care, we want to make sure that any changes do not impact that. Second of all is our access to care. As you mentioned in your question, over 92% of Minnesotans have access to health insurance. Of the remaining 8%, a vast majority of those already qualify under existing public health programs. Mm-hmm. So in the third area, so we have world-leading quality of care. We have world-leading or nation-leading access to that care. The third element is cost. And if you look at the reforms that Governor Pawlenty has proposed and implemented at the state of Minnesota, they've been pretty common sense and successful in their nature. For the state employee health system, in most years, they've been able to hold premium increases to 0% or near a 0% increase for 8 years running. And then what they did is they linked health care with the quality of the care, not the number of procedures that you're billing, not the amount of money that you're billing into the system, but rather the quality of the care. And what they came up with was this. They said, you know, as a state employee, you can go out and you can choose the health clinic you want. If you go to a clinic that does a good job at a low price, you're going to have a low copayment. You're going to have a low copayment. On the other hand, if you go to a clinic that has had higher costs and not as good of outcomes, you're going to be charged a higher copay. And you're going to be able to see this when you sign up in your health care programs, what these different levels of copays are. And guess what happened? People chose to pay the lower copay to the higher quality of care facilities. And it's worked for the state of Minnesota. And again, it's an overall restructuring of the healthcare system so that we are focusing not on the amount of procedures being billed, but we are linking quality of care. Now, if you contrast that with the other side of the aisle's plan, that is a single-payer healthcare system. And if you adopt a single-payer healthcare system, you're going to take Blue Cross Blue Shield and Delta Dental, and you're going to put them out of business. And in our district alone, there are hundreds of people who are working in these private sector companies in the South Metro. So not only would the outcomes be dubious, would it be a higher cost, but actually you'd be taking away private sector jobs at exactly the wrong time that we should not be doing that.
Thank you.